Make your own stop-motion movie, presented by a makerspace at Nevada Public Library. I'm Jody Polk, and I will present the basics of stop-motion animation. Stop-motion animation is defined as a type of filmmaking during which action happens in real life, not constructed in a computer. Subjects and sets are incrementally manipulated by animators and photographed, creating the illusion of movement. The basic steps of stop-motion animation are: take a photo of your scene, move the items in the scene a little bit, take another photo, move the items a little bit again, take another photo, and repeat this over and over again, then finally pulling the photos into an animation program that plays back the photos very quickly, like a super fast slideshow, and it appears as a video. I've included a QR code. Come back to this slide, scan it, and watch a YouTube video all about stop-motion animation. You'll need a few things to get started. You'll need a camera or similar device. We highly recommend a tablet or a smartphone with a built-in camera because you can create animations on the same screen. A digital camera or a cheap webcam also works as long as it can connect to a computer. You'll also need an animation app or software. You'll need a program that strings the photos together and plays them back super fast. There are a ton of different options that work on tablets, smartphones, and computers, and we'll give you our recommendation here in just a minute. You'll also need a tripod. A DIY is fine. You'll just need something that keeps your camera steady. If you don't have a stand, try building one. You'll also need some lights. A brightly lit stage always looks best. Be careful that the lights are not somewhere that you will accidentally knock into them, and remember that lamps get hot after they've been left on for a while. And finally, a work surface. Just make sure you have enough room to animate your movie. A sturdy table or even the floor is a great surface. The steps to create your movie include scripting, storyboarding, set building, filming, adding sound, and finally, adding titles and credits to your movie. Our first step is scripting. Using movie lingo, it basically means developing your characters, planning the setting. What props will you need? Will you have a hero versus a villain? What will your story tell? Before starting your shoot, take the time to really review your project. Which scenes should the film contain, and how can you credibly convey the story to your viewer? For smaller projects, it may be enough just to note down some scenes in a nutshell. But if you're planning a more complex movie, you should definitely write a decent script to keep track of during the shoot. If you're feeling stuck, try to be creative. Think of a way to develop a story. Pick your setting, like a summer vacation, and then pick some characters, like full of zombies, and then add a little element of surprise, like who loves to dance. So a summer vacation full of zombies who love to dance. Another great way to develop a story is to ask a silly question. Some of the best stories are about normal people in really weird situations. There's no wrong answers here, so feel free to be as realistic or as wild as you'd like. Like, what if you woke up with superpowers? Or what if you won $1 million? Another idea is to describe a book and act it out, or to retell a fairy tale using different main characters, and the story ends very differently. The next step in creating your stop-motion movie is to create a storyboard. Now, if you have a quick project, you don't really have to bother with this step too much, but if you're going to have a more complex script, you're definitely going to want to use this tool to stay organized. And every story has 3 parts: a beginning, middle, and end. Storyboarding is basically like a drawn-out version of your script. Professional film productions, after completing the story, have a storyboard artist that is tasked with sketching the individual scenes and camera settings. That way, everyone involved has a pretty good idea of what the finished product should look like. Animators draw out a storyboard before they start posing and shooting their figures. A storyboard kind of looks like a page from a comic book. It shows the whole movie. Each square shows a different shot of your movie. You can draw your figures and use arrows to show which direction they'll move in that scene. Then, in the space under each box, you can write notes and describe what the characters do or say during your movie. Next, we're going to build the set. That means choosing a location where you will film, creating your stage and making sure that things are to scale, setting up your light and your camera rigging, and then finally downloading the app and changing the app settings. First, let's talk about location. Your film set is one of the most important components of a film and significantly influences the appearance of the entire film. It is therefore all the more important to take the design of your set seriously. Before you can even begin construction, you'll need a suitable place to set it up. The most important requirement is that the room can be darkened. You'll have to be able to cover the windows or blinds with a thick curtain or something like that. Why? Because if the filming will take several hours or days, daylight changes constantly. So if the daylight falls on your stop motion set during one part of the day, the light situation changes constantly between the individual pictures, and that leads to what they call flickering in the finished film. For this reason, use only your lights and spotlights for the lighting of your set. The second important factor in choosing a location is that it should be in an undisturbed area of the room. Therefore, make sure that you create your set somewhere that will not have to be taken down and recreated from filming to filming. When you create your build, you're going to need to set up your light and your camera rigging. Rigging means deciding which direction you will shoot your film. There are two main types of rigging. The first is downshoot animation. That means animating with your camera facing down towards a tabletop or a flat surface, and it's one of the most effective ways to create stop motion animation. From this perspective of the camera, your animation stage still has a top and a bottom, or a sky and a ground, and can appear very dimensional, but the animator can easily and methodically move around the items on a flat surface, and the puppets aren't affected by gravity. The other option for rigging is straight ahead animation. Straight ahead animation is the art of animating anything with the camera pointing straight ahead at a subject rather than down at the tabletop. Thus, you're essentially animating in a three-dimensional world rather than a two-dimensional one. Take a moment to consider that animating a camera facing forward requires you to secure the area around your set and the tripod, plus the space must be easy for you to work around and move the items within. Okay, we're getting excited. We've written our script, we've planned our storyboard, we've built the set, and we have our cameras, lights, and tripod all rigged up. Now we need the software to create our movie before we start filming. We recommend the app, which is available in the Apple Store and in the Google Play Store, called Stop Motion Studio. There is a free edition that we will use for this project, but if you want to upgrade to the paid edition, it's only a few dollars. You can also import your movie into iMovie to add some options that are unavailable in the free edition of Stop Motion Studio, such as adding sound effects and voiceovers. Now that you've downloaded your app, I've added another QR code here that you can go back to this slide and click the QR code to learn what every button does within Stop Motion Studio. We're not going to cover all of the settings today, but we will change just a few. Open your app and then click the plus sign to create a new movie. On the left-hand side, you'll see a little gear that looks like a wheel. Click that, and your very first item is the movie speed, or your frames per second. We want to set this at about 5 while we're starting our very first movie. Normally you would set this higher than 15 to have a more fluid experience when you watch your movie back. But we'll start with 5 so that we have fewer images to take to create a 30-second film. Now exit out of your settings, and we're going to set our camera to be auto exposure on the main screen. Just above the shutter button, or the red button on an iPhone, it looks like a small timer. You'll click that and set it to 5 seconds. Once you start the exposure, your camera will take a photo every 5 seconds automatically. That will give you a time to adjust your figure, move your hands, take the exposure. It will beep a few times before it takes the picture, and you'll get the hang of it. Our final setting will be onion skinning, or ghosting. This allows you to see the camera's live view over the last image that the camera recorded. This is helpful in helping you decide how much to move your figure. Use the slider on the left of the exposure screen to change the opacity, sliding up or down from the current view. Changing these two settings before starting your exposure and your filming will help minimize camera shake and will make your finished product less choppy. Now you're ready to start shooting. Just take an image, move your figure a little bit, take an image, move your figure a little bit, and carry on for at least 150 exposures. If you accidentally get your hands in an image, you can go back to those and delete them before you finish your final product. And troubleshooting. Here are some common bugs you might run into as you make your first short movie. Is your movie too fast? You could lower your frame rate, also called your FPS. If your frame rate was higher than 5 or 10, you may want to slow it down a bit. Is your movie too slow? Try increasing your frame rate. If it's set to 5, maybe you want to bump it up to 10 and just take more photos. And if your animation is choppy, that's okay. Usually your first videos look a little rough, and it can even give it that old-timey look. Try moving your items a little bit smaller increments and try to create another movie. And as I mentioned earlier, there may be some flickering in the background if your lighting isn't consistent. This happens when it's uneven and clouds are passing by the sun outside the window, but you can find tricks to good lighting by bringing your lamps in to backlight your figures and frontlight them. Once you've created your movie, you can play it back, delete any images that didn't make the cut, you can reverse and loop. You can also add a still image by clicking the camera and then insert a camera icon. You definitely want to add your titles and credits so that your audience knows what this masterpiece is called and who was involved in creating it. And if you're using the free edition of Stop Motion Studio, you aren't able to do voiceovers or sound effects. So another option is to export your movie from Stop Motion Studio and import it into iMovie, where the free edition will allow you to add voiceover and sound effects to your final product. And we would love to see your movie once you finish your creation. If you import it into your YouTube channel or post it to social media, you could send the info to us at our email address, which is info@nplmo.org. And if you want to do more stop motion, remember that the library has all kinds of resources to help you get started and to learn more about stop motion. We have Steam to Go kits that can be checked out and you can take them home. We have Minecraft and Lego. We also have lots of books about stop motion and different types of animation, like flip books and cartooning cells. We also have many more maker projects, and you can follow the QR code to explore the PDF for lots of maker projects to keep you busy all summer long. Thank you for joining us. We hope you've enjoyed this presentation, and if we can help you in any way, please stop by the library. We'd love to see you. Thank you.